Hbar holders, welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel. Let's take a look at what's happening with the price of Hbar, as we are going into Tuesday morning. So at this point, I've been pretty much keeping my, viewers updated with the broader market. And, a lot has happened, over the course of the last 24 hours. Once again, as you could see for yourself, a lot of retracement, across the board. And again, Bitcoin is, getting closer and closer to the levels we've been speaking about. But let's take a look at HBAR specifically, down 23% on the weekly time frame. So quite a significant pullback. But that can be seen across the board. So it's not just HBAR. We're seeing this type of retracement, pretty much being felt across the market. Let's take a closer look and see what's happening. Before we do that, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So HBAR price 14.5 cents right now. We're actually up 3% on the Bitcoin side of things, with the market cap approaching $6.2 billion and the 24-hour trading volume at $325 million. Let's take a look at what's happening with the dominance index first and foremost. So if you look at it on a weekly time frame, on a hourly time frame, dominance has been plunging down quite sharply. We're actually retesting early October levels for the dominance, but in reverse, what we need to keep in mind is Bitcoin is also in a free fall. Again, the levels we've been speaking about for Bitcoin really coming to life right now. Bitcoin closed below the 0.50 fib zone. You can see for yourself. We actually came down to $89,000 Bitcoin price. And I highlighted a specific target in my market analysis update. If you did end up watching, I was talking about $88,600 next support line, and we came very close to that. And I still think that is the next support to be watching out for, because where we currently are, there's not much support. $88,700 is a next support for Bitcoin. If that does not hold, which I think, it won't, I think the target is pretty much set in stone at this point. I think we're going to reach my main target at $86,000. We've been pretty much spot on, so far for Bitcoin. And I think, we are going to see Bitcoin coming down to here. That would complete the wave. That's something I want you guys to kind of keep in mind. But with that being said, a lot of analysts out here now projecting the price of Bitcoin to go lower, but some of these analysts were nowhere to be seen when, the price of Bitcoin was around here. We were seeing a bunch of fake outs, but your boy Crypto ZX has been continuously talking about this key level. Now, the market overall projection has shifted in terms of the targets, but, I'm complete, just keeping these two previous waves into consideration. And, this is the third wave, of course, and we want to complete this 86K retest. If it were to go lower, then obviously that is just pretty much a plus point. That would mean, sharper pullbacks compared to these two levels. We'll see what happens, but right now we want to be paying attention to the 86K key range. But with that said, let's take a look at what's happening with HBAR's price. So HBAR's price, of course, is still below the key support line. That shouldn't really be a surprise to any one of you at this point. Let's take a look at it. So take a closer look. So HBAR price, just yesterday, we were sitting at about 14.5 cents. We actually saw a fake out. You can see for yourself, and that was, when Bitcoin, pushed up to closer to $96,000, which again was a clear, fake out. But put this into perspective, we came up to 15.5 cents. This was a move of about, you could say, let's bring out the measuring tool. We looked at a bounce of about 6.4%, and again, short-lived, and we dropped below our yesterday's low, setting a new monthly low at about, at 14 cents price, but just above the 14-cent level that I've been talking to you guys about. But it was about an 8% pullback for HBAR over the course of the last 24 hours. This shouldn't be a surprise to you, because look what Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin is down 5%, close to 5%. So it makes total sense that you're seeing HBAR down about 8% over the course of the last 24 hours. But as far as targets are concerned, let's take a look at it once again. As I've talked to you guys about before, obviously the 14.1 cents level was retested as to be expected. You want to hold it around the support, which it's doing, but with the market conditions that we're in, I think we could see the price of HBAR pulling down and potentially start heading back down to this 13.7 cents mark. Obviously there is significant support coming in its way. Ultimately, these are some of the levels to be watching out for right now, which are realistically still in play. And that next move is about a 4.4% pullback from where we currently are, and that's definitely a realistic target to be looking out forward to. But again, a lot of people overlook HBAR. HBAR is one of the projects that still did see quite a nice rally this this cycle. Whether or not this cycle is done, or whether or not this is, a Bitcoin retracing down before it starts heading back towards the upside. That is what we're going to see when Bitcoin kind of comes to those key levels. But, to anyone that's going to come out and say Hbar didn't do anything, Hbar actually did move up 739% in a matter of just a month and a half last year. So, it did have, there were coins out there that had that altcoin type of price action late last year, and some that you picked up back in, the bear market of last cycle. People that picked the right coins, had a nice diversified portfolio. They still did end up doing quite well for themselves in this cycle. But I think, moving forward into, the future, let's face it, there's millions of coins now in this crypto space. A few years back, it was just a couple thousand. So, market is very saturated, and retail interest is not at the level it used to be. Crypto used to be the wild, wild west. Now it's not. We're actually seeing the market mature, as I've discussed on the channel before. But, moving into the future, it's going to be projects that have utility, in my opinion, that will thrive, ones with the real world use case. That is one thing I want you guys to kind of keep in mind. But let me know in the comments what you guys personally think. This is a wave that we're seeing. Hbar, still, as far as the project itself is concerned, doing quite big things, obviously, as far as blockchain adoption is concerned. But, that right now is being overlooked. People are more paying attention to, the native tokens price right now. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you later in Crypto ZX and peace.